My name is Michael Hornberger, and I'm the Cloud and Hosting Practice Manager for Turnkey. I'm interested. Okay, so nobody dropped off the webinar when they found out it was about cybersecurity. So thank you for staying tuned in. So I'm in charge of our data center where we provide private hosting for Microsoft GP, and my team also handles our Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider division, which includes Office 365 and Azure. So a couple interesting facts about me before we get started. I have a wife, her name is Adita, and 3 young kids, Heidi, who is 7, Dylan is 6, and Nora is 3. Nora is actually the boss of the house. She tells everyone what to do and is definitely in charge. I am actually the former CEO of 6 different corporations, including a newspaper, a telecom company, a marketing company, and an auto service contract company, which is absolutely true. I've been in IT for just over 15 years, and almost 5 of them have been here with Turnkey. I designed and built Turnkey's current data center, which is located in downtown St. Louis. So every server, cable, switch, drive, firewall, nut and bolt, I personally touched and configured. So when it comes to the data center, the buck definitely stops here. A couple of fun facts. I ran with the Bulls in Papelona, and 2 of my hobbies include a saltwater reef tank, which I have in my home, which there's a picture of. And I just recently took up knife throwing. Yes, you heard that correctly, knife throwing. Not something you hear every day. Full transparency, it is a brand new hobby for me. I bought my first set of knives off Amazon last month, and I actually had a chance to throw knives with Rokus last weekend. So I still haven't been able to convince my wife to stand up in front of the target so I can practice, but who knows, maybe the future will allow that to happen. I guess I figured if she can throw plates, I can throw knives. In case you're wondering, I am the same guy that brought a stun gun to the last user group meeting and made a challenge where someone could tase me if they purchased advanced threat protection and still got infected with ransomware. So I'm here to report that as of today, nobody has taken me up on that offer. So let's talk about cybersecurity. I'm not telling anyone anything when it's definitely turbulent times when it comes to security. You can look online, you can even pick up a newspaper, and you'll see a breach almost every day, or at least it seems that way. We do know that last year, 160 million customer records were compromised, and the average cost per breach was over $3 million. The scary thing is that a hacker is in your system for actually a median of 249 days before companies ever even find out. So they get in and you don't even know it. So just imagine if someone gained unfettered access to your house for 200 days before you realized it. And just imagine the havoc that they could cause in that amount of time. You know, as Brad had mentioned, just recently we heard about the Equifax breach where 143 million Americans' accounts were compromised. So isn't that interesting? It's the very company that's responsible for accurately reporting your credit is potentially responsible for ruining your credit. Yeah, that's kind of an amazing thing to come to find out. By the way, I did a little research on that topic, and if you are concerned about this Equifax breach, which I think everybody should be, you can do what's called a credit freeze. And what this does is it prevents credits, loans, and services from being approved in your name without your consent. So if you go to Google and just Google credit freeze, you'll find out how to go about doing this. Okay, next slide. So we all heard Rokus talk about digital transformation, leveraging the cloud and technology to move forward and gain competitive advantages. If you think about it, in the old days, most all companies had a lockdown environment. You had PCs on employees' desks, and they accessed corporate systems, and they accessed them on the network that you provided, and only through the access that you gave them. They accessed the data you gave them, and they couldn't see anything else. It was completely locked down, and it was a hard perimeter. You had firewalls, you had routers, you had antivirus controls, maybe you had strong authentication, and typically you just had passwords. And it was really a controlled environment. Well, guess what? The environment has significantly changed. We are in the midst of a digital transformation. You have people bringing their own applications. You have employees bringing their own data. You have people bringing their own devices. They're traveling remotely. They're using tablets. They're using mobile devices. They're everywhere and at all times of the day and night. So how do you possibly secure that? You know, threats can come in from anywhere. They're going to attack your architecture layer, device, human. They will find the weakest link. Phishing attacks are so common, and identity is still where 60% of breaches start. Identity meaning hackers gaining people's passwords. So how do you lock down the environment and still allow for this digital transformation? You know, how do you allow the organization to move forward while still keeping it safe? It's really a hard problem to solve. Around the globe, cybersecurity is a constant headline in the news. What is this new digital norm everyone's talking about? And what can we do to stay safe and secure in this ever-changing connected world? Today, we're going to explore 3 common cybersecurity myths and arm you with resources to help your company meet this growing threat head-on and fight back with a strong cybersecurity defense. So the first myth, I'm not a large organization, not a large enterprise. Hackers won't attack me. Did you know that the fact is that 61% of data breach victims in this year's latest report are businesses with under 1,000 employees? Hackers are very intelligent. They're very sophisticated, but they're also looking for something quick and easy. Small and medium businesses like yours who believe they are not at risk tend not to invest as much in cybersecurity, thus making you an easier target. Your company collects and stores a wealth of data, but often, you know, the owners out there and employees don't realize its true value, and therefore they don't put the right measures in place to protect it. You know, it's more than just social security numbers and customer credit cards. It's gaining access to email. It could be your company's financial information. It could be your database of customers that possibly include a federal tax ID number. Nobody is exempt from cyber attacks. And the more you do now to educate and defend, the better prepared you will be if something does happen. So myth number 2, I don't have the funds or resources for cybersecurity. Well, this is a big mistake. You might feel like you're not in a financial position to invest in cybersecurity yet, especially if you believe your business is too small to attract the attention of would-be hackers. But if you stop to think about the cost and implications of a breach, you know, there's many negative impacts. There's a loss of business due to reputational damage. You don't want to be that company that ends up in the newspaper or on a website being identified as a company that was hacked. You know, when you do get hacked, there are going to be legal fees. There's loss of competitive advantage. You have potential downtime in your company where people can't work. There's so much at stake. You know, for those of you that were at the last user group meeting, I told a true story about one of our customers that had one of their customers erroneously wire a $20,000 payment, $20,000 to a hacker thinking they were paying off their account balance. Truly incredible story. You know, I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, I actually had 2 of our clients that came to Turnkey for help. Now, these are both multi-million-dollar businesses with IT staffs in place. Email spoofing was a real problem for them. Spoofing, for those of you that might not know what that is, it's where a hacker sends out emails that appear to be from your company. You know, they can send these emails internally to your employees and even worse, to your customers and vendors. These emails can contain harmful links and attachments that they are hoping the recipient will click on. And once the recipient does click on them, it's all over. So the two clients I'm referring to, they started to get calls from their customers and vendors asking, you know, why are you sending me these odd messages with these attachments that, you know, that just didn't look right, didn't look legit. You know, the fact is that anyone can easily send out an email. using your company domain and make it appear that it's from someone in your organization. If they know what they're doing, they can easily take over your email identity. And this is without even gaining access to your network or any of your email accounts. They don't have to have a single password in your whole organization to be able to send out emails that look like they're coming from you. So what my team did is we investigated the problem and found several advanced security measures that we were able to implement in both their email server as well as their public DNS records. The measures that we deployed, the security vulnerabilities were eliminated and the spoofing was brought under control within days. So this is a very common problem, and we now have a solution for it. So if your company is having problems with spoofing, give me a call and my team can address this for you. Myth number 3 is that technology is going to fix everything. It's true that your company needs to have robust technology systems and tools to be prepared against cyber threats, but it's also critically important to focus on education. If employees are properly trained to detect a scam or to raise a suspicion, a lot of times this can prevent an attack before the malware is even in the system. My brother, he's in sales for a multi-billion-dollar privately held manufacturer out of Chicago. And he was telling me earlier this year that one of the first things that the company does as part of the onboarding process is go through security training, and then they have to pass a test. So new employees, before they can even access the network or receive their very first email, they must learn how to spot a suspicious email that appears to be legitimate. They learn what to look for when you receive a message from someone that you don't know, and most important, what actions to take when you do receive this email. Many companies, most companies that I work with, simply hire someone, give them a computer, and say, here you go, get to work. Training employees can go a really, really long way. And training shouldn't just stop there. Having, staff members that have data handling compliance training, who understand the processes for implementing security measures and who can help enforce the company policies, all contribute dramatically to prevention. So the key takeaway here is train your staff to identify cybersecurity threats and handle sensitive information appropriately. And this will reduce the risk of these breaches. So in this digital age, businesses of all sizes are susceptible to cyber attacks. It doesn't take much to invest up front in the right education, resources, tools, and technologies to put prevention and mitigation at the forefront of your company strategy, rather than just waiting and reacting to an expensive cybersecurity crisis after the fact. So you might be asking, what can my company do now to improve security and mitigate risks? Well, let's talk about some of the obvious steps, and most of these, some of these are internal, and others, Turnkey can definitely come on board and help you work them out. Patching. Patching is critical to protect against infection. One of the latest outbreaks, the WannaCry ransomware attack, which you might remember hearing about recently, could have been completely prevented just by simply having the latest Windows updates installed. So for your workstations, your employees' laptops, make sure that they're all set to auto-update. There are even automated cloud solutions that you can use, like Azure Operations Management Suite, that you install a really small lightweight agent on every one of your servers and computers. It'll analyze all of your computers and servers and actually automate the patching of these systems, making sure everything's up to date. Next, I think this is extremely important, keeping frequent backups. A lot of people think of backups only being there in case you have a hard drive that crashes, or in case someone messes up, for instance, a chart of accounts is corrupted, or somebody deletes an inventory list. The truth is that backups can be extremely useful in getting things back to normal in the event that you have an infected device. Keeping incremental backups and then periodically testing these backups should definitely be a normal practice in your business. Turnkey, we can help you. We can come into your organization. We can set up all the backups to occur directly to Microsoft Azure. We can set up incremental backups. It'll all be done. All your information will be stored safely in the cloud. It'll all be encrypted and there in case you have one of these events. The next thing, which probably is the most important of all, and I can't stress this enough, is establishing policies for secure passwords. 60% of all intrusions come from password theft or brute force attacks where a hacker figures out a user's password. Don't just trust that your employees are listening to you and making complex passwords. Enforce it by making it mandatory by the use of a group policy in your domain. Again, if you need some help with this, we can come in and set this up in no time at all. Next, reduce privileges. I am shocked by how many different users I see that have domain admin rights in some of the environments that I work on. The truth is that admins can be compromised just as easily as a regular user. And when a hacker gets one of these admin passwords, they really have the keys to the kingdom and can really create havoc for long periods of time. This is one that just has recently become come front and center for us, and we've had to implement quite a few things to combat this. Lock down remote desktop servers. A lot of companies are running terminal servers so employees can work from home and remotely. So in this situation where you have a remote desktop server, if you're going to allow people to work remotely, then this exposes that server to an external IP address on the internet. Now, if you have this set up, I can guarantee you without a doubt that that remote desktop server is having hundreds, if not thousands of attempts from hackers to log into this server every day. And if you don't believe me, give me a call and I'll install a piece of software on that server for you and I'll show it to you. I'll install that software and within minutes, you'll see the hacking attempts coming into that server. You don't even know it's going on and it's a real problem out there. So if you have this exposed server, make absolutely sure that you have 100% complex passwords for all of your users, or it's just a matter of time before a hacker will find a weak password and gain access into that server. One of the next things you can do, it's a more advanced tactic, but you can implement what's called multi-factor authentication. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it's an extra layer of security where a user has to complete something before logging into an application. For instance, when an employee is working outside the company, let's say, this is your policy that you create, not only do they have to enter their credentials, but also enter a one-time code that is sent to their mobile device via text message. This is an extremely effective method for locking things down, and utilizing a solution like Azure AD will implement these advanced security features. Again, something that Turnkey can help you set up. And finally, mobile device management. It's truly the Wild West out there now with the amount of bring your own devices and companies just openly accepting employees that want to work on any device that they choose to bring in. This makes your company vulnerable. It does involve implementing a solution to handle this. And for instance, Microsoft Intune is Microsoft's mobile device management solution. And this will allow a company to have employees register their personal devices with Intune, which will allow you to keep company data and applications separate from their personal information and apps. So for instance, one big benefit of this is if an employee leaves the company, you can selectively wipe the company email off of that device, and you can wipe other company data without disturbing the employee's personal settings and files. So it's a really, I just had a situation last week where, somebody got let go from a company and, They didn't have a mobile device management solution in place, and that employee left the company and took with him all of the emails that they had ever received and sent for the last however many years they'd been with the company. So it's something to really consider. Now, this is just one of the many, many things that Intune will do to help manage your devices and protect your data. I mean, I could do an hour session on this service alone, but I can guarantee you it's well worth looking into. I think it's like $6 a month per user, and it's available right from the Office 365 portal. So if you're interested, give me a call. So in closing, if anything I've discussed today has struck a nerve and you like to talk about having Turnkey help resolve some of these security issues, please call or send an email, and we can definitely set up a meeting. We can assess what you've got, what your current status is. If you think you've already been infected, we can look into detecting that. We can, set up a mobile device management solution for you. We can set up and take care of your backups in the event that you are infected. And again, we can eliminate spoofing problems if you find that to be an issue, and that's something that just not every company knows how to do. So I appreciate everybody listening, and I hope to hear from some of you soon.
Hey, Mike, we actually do have a couple questions about this topic right now.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, John asks, what is best place for where an individual employee could store his or her various passwords? So I guess I'm assuming this means remembering the passwords and storing them for future reference.
Well, it's definitely in their mind, okay? Not written down anywhere. I mean, I have clients, no lie, that have a spreadsheet somewhere on their network, and they say it's in a secure private folder with every single password and username for everybody in the company. Well, the fact of the matter is, if one of the admin's credentials get hacked, that particular hacker could have access to everybody's credentials. So, one of the things is, one of the big things with support, IT support, is password resets. Well, you can allow people to reset their own passwords if you deploy some of these advanced security solutions. And again, if the employee forgets the password, then they can easily reset it. But I don't recommend that you write passwords and store them anywhere, except right in your brain.
Okay. And Cynthia asks, could you expand on terminal servers for home use in relation to the disadvantage of using the desktop?
The disadvantage of, well,
so basically working from home on the remote server versus working from home, I assume, using a desktop, not accessing it remotely, or working from the office using a desktop.
Well, there's no disadvantage if it's set up properly and securely. For instance, if you do have a VPN set up between your home computer and the office, then you're not exposing your remote desktop server to the entire world, where anybody from any IP address can log in. So really, there's several ways to lock down the remote desktop server. One is you can, in your firewall, for instance, you can restrict only certain IP addresses can log into this remote desktop server. The other method is a VPN, where only people with VPN access can get into the server. In our data center, we have to have remote desktop servers that are wide open. And when I say wide open, they're not completely wide open. For instance, we won't allow any international IP addresses to log into any of our remote desktop servers. We also have special software installed where if we see a failed login attempt 2 or more times within 5 minutes, or 3 or more times within 5 minutes, it'll automatically lock that IP address out and not allow them to log in. So, a lot of companies don't even realize that this vulnerability exists. I mean, you're literally you're hit thousands of times per day, and you don't even know it. And if somebody has a weak password, it could be just a matter of time. I've seen it happen. I can't even count on it on one hand the number of times I've seen remote desktop servers get hacked into.